All right. Thanks very much, everybody, for staying on to participate in our open discussion. I just want to invite Doug to take over from here.
Thank you very much, Lisa. So obviously this is a very unique and concerning time for everybody in society. And we just want to thank all the members for their swift action to suspend soccer activities, and also for your patience since that major announcement came out on Friday, March 13th. We were not aware that that step was going to be taken by Canada Soccer. We were made aware just about an hour before it was released. And so we thank you for your patience with that. Since then, we have been working with Canada Soccer to set up twice weekly meetings and check-ins. Not a lot of report from this last week, but I'll talk a little bit more about what that will look like in a minute. But we want to remind everybody that we all have opportunities to make a difference. So let's keep informed and be part of the solution. We obviously want to support current health updates and messaging. We want to be role models for promoting health and positive behaviors, and we want to have a unified effort to combat COVID-19. We need to be patient with each other and remain committed to this cause as our top priority. We need to take care of each other. And we know that soccer will be important when this crisis is over. So let's use this time well. This is a very unusual time for us. And we'll speak in a second about preparing and being ready to serve. So again, in every situation like this, you have to prioritize and you have to identify your opportunities. So we want to thank you for your support during the AGM to ensure the board has the mandate to continue to serve. We have a new board in place, and we also have completed our requirements for the AGM, which ensures our SAS board funding is maintained and our nonprofit status is maintained. Tomorrow morning, we will be working with the new board for the first time and looking for some clarity from them on direction. We're going to take care of some of our initial requirements tomorrow for board formation, and then we'll be rolling up our sleeves to clarify direction for management and staff. And in particular, we're going to keep in touch with Canada Soccer and with SAS Sport. And one of our primary focuses, of course, is on our regular interactions with you and our service to membership. And we had some of those questions in the AGM call, and we can talk more about that today as we move forward. One of the things we have to remember is that we're going to have to develop a model where we're flexible to adapt. This is definitely a moving target. And again, I think we'll be stronger having worked through this together in the long run. That's certainly the hope. So again, we're going to get together tomorrow with the board, receive some direction. We're looking for a little bit of space to plan. So our staff are off on Monday. We've put in extensive hours in preparation for the AGM and all the other things we've been dealing with. So we're off Monday, but we'll be back to work on Tuesday. Our offices are closed to the public until further notice, and we posted that on our website yesterday after the major announcement from the government. We're going to continue to execute the strategic plan and focus on what the priorities are within that plan. And our goal this next week is to work to develop a plan or an initial part of a plan by Thursday. We'll meet with the board on Thursday night, and then we'll communicate sort of how we might think about engaging with membership to keep giving updates, how we can stay connected, how we can continue to do education, and again, use this time well, the time that's available for us. We have some very significant work to do for SAS Sport and our Non-Profit Act requirements, which are due mostly next week, and we've sort of been distracted in some of that lately with this preparation for this AGM and the COVID stuff. So we're going to get back to that next week as well. But what we're going to be trying to do is have a comprehensive look. Again, what are the priorities and what are the opportunities? We're going to look at what kind of cancellation timelines we have to anticipate for various levels of programming. We're going to look into the financial aspects, and we'll consider all those things, and we know we'll get questions later about registration, and we'll gladly talk about some of those. We will take a look at policy, program, and education considerations, and we're going to take a look at restart strategies. We have a hopeful approach right now, and we want you and all of our members preparing to restart. As I said earlier, soccer has a big role to play, and people need something to look forward to. And so we encourage all the member organizations to keep thinking forward and preparing for the day that soccer will be back out on the pitch. We will work from a plan, and we will execute and communicate when that is ready. And the reality is, we don't have all the answers, and we're not going to pretend that we do today. Some of the questions you ask, we'll take them into consideration, and we probably won't answer many of them directly because we need to meet with the new board and get some direction around that. But what we're doing is preparing to have those answers for you in the future. Again, we want a positive outlook. Our best case scenario is to get soccer back up and running. We know that this is going to take weeks, potentially months to work through, and we're going to continue to observe what's going on with the health authorities. We want you to consider continuing to accept registrations, but possibly defer accepting payments. This model has actually come out of the Canada Soccer meeting so far about short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And you can see in our first couple weeks, some of the things I've already talked about: board formation, alignment, SAS support, contingency planning, and then member engagement. That's a big focus this week and the next week after. We're going to then really start drilling into that contingency planning and getting into it in different ways with membership. Could be with our adult members, could be with our rural members, etc. And we'll figure out how those interactions can occur. We want to be ready to go if 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks from now we're ready to play soccer, so we'll have to do some serious thinking about that. And then, of course, depending what occurs, we'll be considering and adapting and moving to more midterm strategizing or long-term strategizing if it appears that this thing's going to go longer than we all hope for. We have opportunities to engage, and we want to figure out what our best strategy. We want to use that time well. So coming up are some important map updates, and we're very grateful to SAS Sport. We have funding secured for MAP, and we're grateful for that, and that might be things that we amend to make it easier for membership. So we'll be thinking about that. Obviously, RAMP training continues. As mentioned earlier in the call, there's very significant things we want to talk to with our adult soccer members, our referee programming, and particularly our largest centers, but also rural. We have lots of opportunity to prepare for futsal, walking, beach, and other pieces. We'll keep up with Canada Soccer. We want to make our game safer for our referees and more welcoming to all our participants through our Make It Official strategies. And there's all kinds of other things that we could be doing, but as we said, we're going to take a week or so, and we appreciate some space to allow us to do some of that thinking, and then we're preparing for communication with membership next Friday about how that might look in the future. So some of the things that are coming up, there's an influencing change women's webinar, a couple of webinars for MAP coming up, April 8th, a newcomer engagement. We encourage you to watch the website for further announcements. We're going to keep people informed through emails for major communications and ask you to look at the website for regular updates that might not come out as email directly. The website will be a primary source of information, and we want to link it to social medias as well. We have our COVID-19 information in one place on our website, and we'll try to take a balanced approach with our social media content, which is informational, and other actions which are more engagement. And we're going to look at different forms of content and different ways of interacting with you folks. And those are some of the kinds of things we're going to be thinking about now that we've formalized the AGM and have the board has the mandate to continue. So what we'll do is we're going to move into open discussions. Again, raise your hand to be recognized. I'll try to facilitate as best I can. Let's allow space for all the participants to be engaged. So we'll restrict to one question at a time if we're okay. Let's be patient and understand that we don't have all the answers at this time. We'll invite the members, the board, the staff, and the guests in to not only ask questions, but answer questions. And right now we're scheduled for about a 60-minute time limit, but we're glad to sit with you folks and talk as necessary. So with that, I think I'll open the call for discussions and comments. And we're grateful to have you here and spending some time during this very challenging time in terms of figuring out how we can collaborate and work well together to make sure we come out the other side in good shape. So I open the floor to comments or discussions. I have Ryan, thank you.
Okay, so I'll start by just kind of saying, like, I think this item is very unprecedented, and I think it's ever moving. So it's hard to kind of place something right on a path that probably is going to change 100 times from now until this pandemic is over. One of the biggest things for our organization, and I know it varies dramatically compared to some of the smaller organizations, is financial aid. And I know you said there was maybe some stuff coming down the pike, but I'd like to encourage the SSA board to maybe take a leadership role. And I think it might be as extreme as waiving the registration fee from the SSA for the outdoor season, just with the volatility. And we don't know if we're going to have 0 to 100% participation in the outdoor season, and the financial burden on especially the bigger organizations like ourselves that have staff and facility usages and things like that, it could almost be detrimental if we I know we've been planning for the last week. It's been almost day-to-day contact about trying to with planning and trying to understand where things might go, reforecasting budgets and all that kind of stuff. I just want to just when the SSA board is discussing this, I hope that nothing's left off the table, but that's one thing that I know could potentially alleviate a big part of an issue. It's not going to fix everything, but it'll help our organization out considerably, and I'm pretty sure some of the other ones as well. Other than that, I think that now that things seem to be getting even more when it comes to this quarantine and whatnot, I think just the communication piece on this for me, I just want to ask that we try to get, didn't sound like you guys at SSA had a lot of lead time either, but there should be a communication process when we're talking about any large items in general, not just I guess this COVID item, but it just put a spotlight on it that we have a communication issue. I think anytime that I know internally we're striving to, whenever we have large items of change, the people that are kind of the key point holders or the people that are kind of champions of the clause, they get a little bit of head time so they can be prepared, so that they know just a few things, the key points to the communication and who the point person is and who they can direct comments and concerns to. I think that's another big item with that is that we just I just want just a clear line of communication and maybe some heads up when the major communications are coming down from Canada Soccer. It sounds like that might be something you guys can champion from our level. It kind of would just help everyone involved, I think. But like I said, I think the biggest thing for us as an organization, and I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be feeling the pinches of this, and it's going to be a big thing that we all support each other and try to, I guess as this goes on further and further, support each other, and I'm pretty sure we'll get out on the right side of it and start getting back to growing soccer the way that we all really want to see happen. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I don't know if there's any comments on that, but thanks.
Thank you, Ryan, and I appreciate your points on that. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of heads up time. We literally had minutes, maybe less than an hour. I had to contact Lisa, I had to inform the board. We had to very rapidly develop our own script to align with CSA, and then that piece came out. So we weren't aware of it. I was talking just the day before with Amanda and others about, you know, what might be coming down, and we got called into the meeting with CSA, and certainly when we had all their head staff, their CEO and you know, folks on the line, we understood that maybe something different was going to happen. But we'll do our best on that stuff, Ryan, and you have our assurance that wherever possible, we will try to align our communications and bring you into it with speaking notes and point people, as you mentioned. So those are very valid points. There's things that we can't control, and when we have urgent pieces to release, we'll do so. But in all other cases, if we have leave time, we'll do that. I will be meeting with Canada Soccer on Tuesday and Thursday next week. I'll raise these points that you've made and other members at the national level have also made, and you know, we'll continue to do our best in that. So thank you very much, Ryan, for your comments. Mark from Saskatoon Youth.
Thank you, Doug. Couple of points, quick question based on what we're all going through and what this could mean to our registrations. We don't know that as it is. It's a bouncing ball that we're all trying to keep up with. Could I please ask that SSA reconsiders their decision to increase the registration fees, to put those on hold at this time, in the event of what we are going through and what obviously all our individual members are going through at this time? That's my first question. If you want to answer that, I'd be pleased to go ahead, please, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, we have the board on the line, they're listening, as well as staff. And as we said, we're going to get some direction from the board, and this will be a topic, again, I can assure you that'll be on the table tomorrow. And when we determine that, we'll communicate if there's impacts, as Ryan has mentioned and you've mentioned, Mark, and we'll certainly, that's on the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second point, just quickly going back to, I know we don't want to go back and rehash the bylaws any more than we've had to, but section 4.1.3, just clarification. It says in the event that one of our, okay, as a case scenario, let's just say as an example, a coach assaults a referee. Based on that, are we immediately suspending that coach? Are we looking at suspending the member organization to which that coach is a member? Or how is that? Or are we having to say we wait until it goes to court, and then if they are convicted, at that time that person is then suspended? Or is that person then suspended and potentially his member organization suspended too? Just clarify, please.
No, so if there's an assault against an official, that report would come to us from the member organization within 24 hours. We have the authority to suspend immediately without a hearing, which members do not at this moment, right? And so the assault of a referee particularly is the jurisdiction of the province. That comes from Canada Soccer because the referee is registered directly with us. So that is that mechanism. If there was an assault in and there was actually criminal charges, there's different options. We'd have to think about the particulars, but the formal discipline at SSA could come forward and the suspension could come down, and it could also be then, you know, for a particular length of time, and it also could have a note that says this may be impacted by any findings from the courts, but it doesn't prohibit anything from going to the courts as a result of assault of a referee. That's not in any way related to that 3.25 argument or conversation. So does that answer your question, Mark?
I'm just wondering as to what stage is it potentially SSA are going to suspend a membership organization?
Again, unless the member, in regard to assaulting official, there's no.
Or any particular, it could not be, I mean, potentially that's one of them, or abusing a minor or whatever it may be. And, you know, God help us, we hope that never happens. But in that event, at what point do SSA come in and say, okay, Saskatoon Youth Soccer, you're suspended?
So just to be clear, if there was a form of complaint about your member organization as a whole,
Okay.
assaulting or abusing a minor, the bylaw that we're talking about is not contemplating that. The membership status of an organization is quite different than what we're talking about if an individual assaults an official. So those
Okay.
two things are not the same.
Okay.
Obviously, there's identification in the bylaws about good standing, and should any member organization's good standing come into question, then you receive notice of the good standing and the remedies to put yourself back in good standing. And then there's a formal process which is outlined in our policy that works through that. So I hope that answers your question, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anyone? So Mark, you can unraise your hand. So I'm just scanning through to see who's still on the line with us. You know, I will put people on the spot. So Warren Proctor, SAS Sport. I'm not going to put you on your spot, but I know SAS Sport. We've been talking to your folks and colleagues there, and we've been receiving announcements from SAS Sport. Is there anything you want to share about what you are anticipating coming down the pipe in regard to COVID or the future of sport in province, Warren? Have I scared you off, or are you on mute, Warren? Maybe I've lost him. Maybe he's not there anymore.
Doug, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, this is Jason Jones. I came
Okay.
in about 10 minutes into the AGM there.
Okay.
Is it okay? I don't know if you can see me or anything, but can I just ask a question?
Yeah, you're in the hoop right now, so go ahead, and then we'll go
Okay.
to Scott from SASI.
Okay. Just 2 points. I've kind of broke this down in my own head as to understand it. Is there a way when you're talking with the CSA that, because you said you were just notified like an hour before, and I know you're meeting with them this week, I've kind of said, okay, like till March 31st, let's just all wait, relax, and see what happens up till the 14th, right? If we don't hear anything by the 14th, we're probably going to look at some kind of cancellation moving forward if there's not a decrease in the number of cases that are in the province. But one of the things I'm wondering if we can just get a timeline from them as to what they're thinking, as opposed to will they look at specific provinces and say, okay, yes, Saskatchewan, you're clear, you can go. Ontario, you're not clear, you're not going. Or is it going to be a completely countrywide suspension of all soccer activities? And my second question would be, is there any type of emergency funding from the SSA, CSA that would help organizations get through this time, like the government's talked about?
Thank you, Jason. Two good questions. In regards to timelines, again, the CSA specifically chosen the indefinite timeline. But they don't want to communicate too early, and they don't want to communicate too late. So they have, just understanding the severity of the situation, they've chosen that word indefinitely on purpose, right? BC Soccer, for example, questioned this on our Thursday call, and BC has gone and extended this to basically tell their members they should not anticipate anything in April, right? So Canada Soccer was potentially going to weigh in on that yesterday morning, but I checked late yesterday and there was nothing forthcoming. There might be coming some next week. But one of the things we'll be certainly considering is certain types of programming, of course, have drop dates. And that's some of the stuff that staff are already charting out in terms of when does this get to a point that it probably can't be recovered. The indefinite suspension gives us some hope. And of course, we could always hopefully move quickly if somehow it was lifted. But it does just keep us on notice that until something changes, nothing's changed and we're suspended. So that might not be the best answer, but we'll definitely talk more about that on CSA on Tuesday, Jason. And when we come back to you folks on Friday, maybe we'll have more to say about that. In regards to emergency funding, again, there's no protocols that I'm aware of at Canada Soccer or at SSA for emergency funding to go directly to membership. But this is another topic you've raised and we're taking note today. And these are the kinds of things that we'll be considering at the board level and determining, you know, what we can do, obviously, to support organizations to carry forward. So I hope those have answered your questions, Jason.
Yep, thank you very much.
I have a Scott from Saskatoon.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. My question is, and possibly, you know, I realize this question is getting a bit ahead of itself because your energies will, in the short term, in the immediate, and for who knows how long, will be largely eaten up by this surprise circumstance that you know has dropped in front of us. So I appreciate that that's gonna take some attention.
Yeah.
But imagining a world of soccer beyond this scenario, I think it was in slide 25 or something where it highlighted the priorities. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Yeah, that.
I had a slide
yeah.
here, right? So what I want.
Perfect.
Sorry, I'll just comment. This is prioritized. These are just we could list 100 things that we need to think about, right? But
Sure.
What we're saying is we're going to go through these lists, and listening to you folks will help us to prioritize what the opportunities should be for not only online engagement, which is obviously how we'll have to interact for a while, but in terms of policy change and program adjustments, that's some of the things we'll be thinking about. So in this chart, again, what Canada Soccer is building sort of a template for us all to follow is we obviously have some short-term stuff that we need to get through and think about. At the same time, we got to think about medium and long, and we have to think about not only sort of small, medium, and significant impact, and align those kind of thinkings to short and long-term, medium-term timelines. So that is definitely something we're talking about, and I'll let you get back to your question, Scott.
Sure, and thank you for bringing those slides back up for me, Doug. I guess what I just wanted to get out there, and I appreciate that the list isn't all-inclusive, but you know, I think when I look at the trends in soccer, and I understand kind of the you know, the demographics of how, you know, we as a country grow and how Saskatchewan has grown and what's going on there, I think what I want to say is that from our organization perspective, it would be really important to us to see an emphasis on just really driving soccer as a whole brand, and so, you know, beach soccer and walking soccer and futsal and urban and rural, youth, adult, all fits under that as a whole brand. How we compete in the ever filled recreational space, because you know, we've had a concerning trend, and unfortunately the COVID-19 circumstance kind of kicks us at the end of a long 5-year trend where, you know, we're already not looking in the most exciting direction. But we know that, you know, Canada grows from immigration, and soccer is big globally, and somehow we're not capturing that, and we see, you know, we really have to focus on how we onboard people at young stages and how we transition them all the way through, and I think it'd be really encouraging to kind of see some initiatives that would affect all types of soccer at all levels, that really focus on getting people into wherever because I'm happy to see any type of soccer grow, and us to approach that growth in a way that any member organizations can benefit from that. But there's this concerning 5-year trend, and whatever we've done over the last 5 years, the numbers don't seem to say that what we're doing bucket and change it. And I think that's, critical to the survival of our organizations, and a real missed opportunity if we're not jumping on that and responding to that issue.
Thank you very much. And I agree with everything you said there. And I just want to assure you that we have a very comprehensive operational plan and long-term plan. And had this been the AGM, we would have been talking about a lot of those things. So one of the calls we are planning in the future, which we're going to prioritize, is down here, talking about strategic plan updates and operational plan highlights. And, I could speak, in detail about multiple things that would grow the game. And what you're talking about is growing the overall game, and how do we impact the overall game. I mean, the reality is, how do we impact the overall game is there's a partnership between Canada Soccer, SAS Soccer, the member organizations, even down to the team level, to deliver a product that the participants want. Clearly, the membership in soccer as a whole, not only in Saskatchewan, but Canada-wide, have seen dramatic declines in interest in registration totals. But there's many, many initiatives, including club licensing, which is going to help to grow the standards of the organizations. Early years development is going to give our participants a quality experience at best start at early ages, right? Our youth and competition strategies keep people satisfied and are also flexible to different needs, whether it's competitive or recreational. And of course, what we see, the whole piece is a cycle of life. And so adult soccer benefits from very strong youth programming. Youth programming and adult programming benefit from strong coaching, refereeing, and good policies in place to make the atmosphere of the game, the environment around the game, participant friendly. So we have many, many things going on in that regard. And we'll be glad to talk more about those with you folks on another call, Scott. So not that we need to stop the conversation today or any other questions, but lots going on, and we're really pleased with the plans we have, but we're not naive to think that because we had a little glitch in registration, moving some of the numbers up this year, that we are going to rest on our laurels or start celebrating. The sport of soccer in Canada in the last 5 years has shown that it's in some trouble. But there's also all kinds of other sports experiencing that as well. And we just want to make sure that we work well together so that we can collectively deliver a good product. And when you have a good product, participants will register. So I hope that answers your question, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Doug, and to your whole team. And I appreciate that you guys are on that. And we at SAS really look forward to partnering and engaging and having conversations on, how that applies to us in our context. And we're definitely committed to seeing soccer in Saskatchewan in our community succeed, win, grow.
Thank you. And one of our recent things, again, with you folks in Saskatoon, and we'll trade off some of the work we're doing there and think about that in Regina, is that referee development piece. So we're looking forward to, that's some of the work we can try to get done during this phase and build those things. So we're looking forward to that specifically with you guys, Scott. I've got Warren Proctor now with his hand up from SAS Board, and thank you, Warren, for joining the call. Warren, if you're speaking, I can't hear you right now. Leanne, any thoughts on you with Warren there? Oh, there we go.
Warren, you might be muted on your computer and your phone. Just check both if you're using a phone.
Thank you, Lara. Warren, let's try one more time and then we'll offer it open to other questions. So Warren, we can't hear you right now. I'm not sure what the problem is. Potentially Oh, there you go. Try that. It just seems to be coming off and on, Warren, so I think there's something definitely wrong there. I'll just invite other questions, and I may start to invite other people in the call to just comment if there is any. Moore from Capel Valley.
Just a question for those of us that have a smaller club. We only have a 6-week season.
Yeah.
If things drag into May and we as a club decide we are not going to open registration, we're not going to have a season, do we have that ability to make that call? Are we going to be penalized in any way as a member organization? Like, do we have the power to make that decision where we just will not go ahead this year with a season if we only have like 4 weeks?
Yeah, that decision is ultimately up to every member organization. What we would ask you to do, and again, this will be some of the stuff we'll be communicating about next week once we develop our thinking, is, let's work together on that. And we have our member coordinator, Lara Schrader, and we have Eden, the registrar. There's other staff you can connect with. And what we want to do is let's hold out hope and let's prepare for soccer. But of course, all of you have got lives and families to take care of, and we can't predict what every community is doing and how that's going to affect people. So ultimately, the decision is up to you folks. There's no real penalty for that from our side. There is some pieces around MAP registration that impact funding in future years, but those are things we might think of as well, and maybe we have to reconsider MAP, but we would love to hear from you and be able to support you in that decision, but ultimately that decision is yours.
Okay.
You're okay with that? Anything else on that?
I have another question, but I'll wait for someone else to go.
All right, thank you. Let's go with you, Dooley, at QC.
I think it's also important for us to remember that even if the CSA comes out and says that we're clear to go ahead, each of us are going to be dependent on what our regions and local governments do. So we need to be aware that could happen, right? Where CSA says, yes, you're good to go, but City of Regina says no, because we're not giving you fields and we're not allowing big groups. So it's not just one thing we're waiting to hear from.
Thank you, Hugh. I appreciate that comment. That certainly is relevant, and everybody's going to be in different scenarios. Ultimately, CSA will maybe be able to lift suspension, and I think there was comments earlier that I probably didn't talk about directly, but yeah, they could go to a scenario where it's different in different regions, but right now it's just a blanket across the board. Invite the next question. Or sorry, Hugh, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. You can mute then.
You bet.
Question for Capel again. Thank you.
This has nothing to do with the virus. It's just basically about this recording. Is this recording going to be available for all of us to view again or to pass on to our other clubs so that they can view this recording?
Yeah, I think we'll post these recordings. Lara, do you want to answer about that? Or sorry, Leanne?
Yep, we can make this available. We've made other recordings available of our webinars, so that can be done.
Thank you.
Would you be emailing it out or look for a post on the website?
We'll put it in our communication probably next week then, Leanne, just put it in there that these recordings are available.
Yeah, we would probably provide a link to it.
Okay.
We can direct you to our wonderful YouTube page for this and other great recordings, and then we will also post that where otherwise appropriate.
Thank you, Lara. We have a hand for Striker and Swift Current.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know that Jason asked about a timeline there.
Mhm.
And I guess like you got to think that it's going to be connected to numbers. Like if when schools went down, or shut down,
Yeah.
sports shut down, if we don't see like no positive cases for a good stretch of days, like 10 to 14, I think that 2-week buffer zone will give you an indication of where or when we can resume.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll try to stay as connected to that we can with our provincial government, and we encourage you folks to do that on your local levels as well. And I agree, if the medical community will be monitoring numbers closely, and I think they're going to be overly cautious. We have that phrase, an abundance of caution. And but yeah, that we might get some fair warning. I think that's what you're trying to suggest, is it?
Yeah, like we definitely have time to figure out what will happen in that time. As more and more cases come out and they're confirmed, that's another 14 days of no soccer. Once we get 0 cases today, then that starts the process of, oh, maybe in 14 days we would be able to do so. So that, I think that would help some member organizations figure out their internal timeline a bit.
Thank you very much. You have any other comments?
No, that's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Doug,
You're
I
welcome.
have a comment from Warren Proctor with
Okay,
Sport. Just
go ahead.
I can
Yep.
read it out.
Thank
So
you.
he just says, my apologies, his microphone's not working, but he would like to extend his and SASSport's sincere appreciation to the SSA board and staff for all you're doing to support soccer development in Saskatchewan and all you're doing to respond to this current situation. SASSport will continue to support SSA and its members into the future as best we can. Also, best of luck to the SSA members once soccer can resume.
Thanks very much, Warren. We appreciate those kind words. And we're certainly staying in touch and watching progress and leadership from SASSport as well. So thanks very much. And one of the things we do have to just send a huge round of applause. We are in a very unique situation in Saskatchewan because of the incredible work and leadership of SASSport. Our funding is secure for the next 2 years. And we know that we have annual funding to continue to exist. And we know that our MAP money is secure. And so these are the things that really help us in Saskatchewan that some of the other provinces don't have. So we just always have to recognize the incredible work at SASSport. And Warren's been our consultant for years and really appreciate all his support. So thank you for those comments, Warren. Next questions, anybody on the call? Lisa, do you have any comments then, maybe to wrap up a little bit on next steps for the board? And if we'll prepare to wind this call down if there's no other hands raised.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Doug. And thanks again to everybody for participating in this open discussion. As Doug mentioned, we will be having our first board meeting tomorrow with our newly elected board. So we'll be obviously addressing the issues at hand and those that were brought up today by all of you. And then we'll be communicating back to the members with any changes as we get them. I guess as we know them and decisions are made, we'll be communicating those out. And then as we hear more information from Canada Soccer and or other governing bodies, we'll also communicate those in as timely as possible. So I do want to thank everybody for their participation today. And in these challenging times, I hope everybody is safe and is staying close to their loved ones and protecting themselves from the further spread of this COVID-19.
Thank you, Lisa. And I also, on behalf of staff and the board, just sincerely thank all the membership for the support. And be safe out there, guys. We'll talk again soon. with that, we will bring this call to an end. Thank you very much, one and all. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
Yes, thanks from Weyburn.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Leanne, I think we're good to go, and we're officially adjourned.